Remember those endless summer days that felt like they just last forever? Sun rays kiss your skin, grass tickles your toes as you bite into the creamy popsicle melting in your hand. Pure, unbothered bliss. Capture more sun-drenched memories with the Orange Vanilla Dream Hydration Multiplier from Liquid IV. This nostalgic vanilla flavor with notes of candied orange can help keep you hydrated while savoring your favorite golden hour moments. No matter how hot your summer gets, just one stick of Liquid IV and 16 ounces of water hydrates you better than water alone. It's 3 times the electrolytes of the leading sports drink, with 8 vitamins and nutrients for refreshing on-the-go hydration. Live your summer dream with Liquid IV. Tear, pour, live more. Go to liquidiv.com and get 20% off your first order with code INDULGE20 at checkout. That's code INDULGE20 at liquidiv.com.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Energy to Heal podcast. My name is Laura, and I'm your host today. Here we talk about everything Splankna. Splankna is a faith-based inner healing modality that honestly changed my son's life and therefore my whole family's life like 6 years ago. Later, I got trained in it, and I've been a practitioner. I started this podcast with a friend of mine originally because we wanted to get the word out about this modality. It is amazing what God has done with this tool of inner healing and setting people free. Today, though, I have a special guest for you who is actually my husband, and we're talking about, in my opinion, the biggest key to living this life of freedom with Christ. And it is so on brand with Splankna because Splankna is where we get set free from the things that have happened to us in the past, the traumas, the emotions we carry around because of them, the places that the enemy lied to us, got us twisted up, and we changed fundamentally the way that we operate because of that hard thing or because of that trauma. And so today we're talking about this concept of surrender. Like, how do you live unattached or unaffected by the ups and the downs of this world that we live in? Because if you've been on this planet for any amount of time, you know there are plenty of ups and downs. And what the Lord has taught my husband and I in this crazy journey of entrepreneurship is, in life, you can ride those ups and downs, or you can get off the ride and live from a different place, standing on Christ instead of standing on circumstance. And when you do that, it's like you're untouchable. It's like the enemy, the way he used to get to you, trick you, lie to you, it just doesn't work anymore. And I just am in this place where I'm like, nothing else matters to me right now besides people being healthy, the people in my life that I love and know being healthy and not falling for the tactics of the enemy. And I feel like getting us to be attached to this world is one of the tactics of the enemy to keep us stuck and miserable and exhausted. So this is an important conversation. And my husband just articulates it better than I do. This is his favorite thing to talk about. I've learned so much from him in this topic. If you are wanting freedom, if you are wanting to live differently than the world lives, this episode is for you. My husband is an entrepreneur, but he went to school to be a saxophone performance major. When I married him, the concept of what are we going to do for a living never crossed our minds. We were just in love and happy. And who cares about money? Who needs that when you're in love? And we quickly went on to realize you actually do need money to pay for groceries. And so he started working a sales job, which led to him owning his own roofing company, which led to him selling that company and starting a new business that he's been working on for the past 3 years called Do Space. And for us, that journey of entrepreneurship is what the Lord has used to teach us all of these lessons, because it has been a raw and real and intense journey of learning how to trust the Lord so that we don't implode. So here's my conversation with my husband, my favorite philosophizing person to talk to, and my friend, Laura Milliken.
The funny thing is I was thinking the other day, if I could have one superpower in the whole world, it would be the superpower of surrender. Really. And I would not have said that 5 to 10 years ago or something like that.
True.
And I think the reason is because I realized that surrender, what it ultimately does is it drops everything to its most true, its most fundamental, and its most perfect reality. Just like gravity drops anything to the ground, surrender drops anything to its most true and perfect reality. And the more you can surrender, the closer you get to really what is God's best and perfect plan for you, with absolutely no friction or sorrow attached to it. And, I wonder if that is how Jesus could even be heading to the cross, to the worst experience that any man has encountered on earth, and be saying it was for the joy set before him. It even transmuted the experience of torture and, having your father's face turn away from you and all these other things. It transmuted it into joy. So that's the level of power of surrender. It can somehow do that. So if I had one superpower, it would be the gift of surrender.
Now, talk about where you learned this, because you are an entrepreneur. You have, talk about struggle, talk about resistance. You have met all of it over the past, 10 years. Yeah. We have been in the fire with our finances, with this journey of following Jesus, following him when it doesn't make sense, following him when it looks like he bailed on us. And it was, in my perspective, it was like, we have to learn how to surrender or we will die. Mm-hmm. Our marriage won't make it. Our faith won't make it. We almost had to learn this in order to get through the past 10 years.
Yeah. Well, I think, number one, every human is wired for surrender. And when you do the opposite of that, which is kind of putting yourself in the center of your life, or lots of effort or resistance or fighting or forcing, it grinds against the human soul. It just does. And that always eventually catches up to you, and people get to this moment where maybe it sounds like, fine, I just give up, or who cares? And for some reason, we had friends that were trying to have a baby together for years. I don't know if you remember this. And they were trying and trying and trying and trying. I think it was 4 years, and they couldn't have a baby. And finally, one day they just said, fine, who cares? We give up. You know what? This has just created conflict in our marriage. And they just started being intimate for fun. And I think it was 2 months later, they were pregnant. Something about surrender unlocked what they had actually been seeking all along. And I think that, people are like, oh, if he's talking about surrender, he probably just sits around all day and does nothing. But just like you said, we've been building companies. We've been raising millions of dollars for these technology startups. We've sold a previous company. We've had companies before that didn't make it, and we had to figure out what to do next. So surrender, the interesting thing that I found out about surrender is it's not an off switch. Surrender doesn't turn you off. Surrender actually turns you on. Surrender, what it actually does is it unlocks something much deeper, much more powerful, and much more fundamental about you and within you. And when that thing can start flowing and guiding your life, I think it's John 7:38 that says, where Jesus said, whoever believes in me, as the scriptures has said, out of his innermost being will flow rivers of living water. Mm. So Jesus said the kingdom of heaven is within you, and there's a river that flows from the throne of God. And there's a river that flows from our innermost being when we fully believe in and trust on Jesus. What if surrender activates, it just lets out all the tension from the river of heaven that's flowing through us to guide us and shape us and show us what to do in life? I think surrender is actually an activator. It's an on switch and not an off switch.
But when did you learn this? Give me a picture of building a business, struggling with finances, struggling with what do I do next, doing it in your own strength, your own struggling, versus when you have, was it a moment when you learned surrender? Was it years And what was the difference working between those two energies?
Okay. So
and I want to say, not because everyone listening is an entrepreneur, but everyone in life struggles. Everyone, every single person. You might struggle with the opinions of others, the relationships you're in with others, the job you have, the family you have. Life has the opportunity for struggle around every corner. And you have taught me so much about being unattached to these things that we struggle with. And so I want people to hear that, because it has been life-changing for me as well.
So it makes me think of two stories. See, surrender is so interesting, because the more you do it, the more you come into relationship with God. And I can never tell you what surrender is going to activate after you do it, but I can always tell you that surrender is the way into what you want. So I'll give two examples here of how I kind of started experiencing this in my life. When we first got married and we were living in Denver, and the only job I could find was a 100% commission sales job, going door to door to door. Right?
Yeah, those are brutal days.
Yeah. I'd been hired by this company and the promise was 6 figures, so much money. And I'm like, oh, we could use that.
Yeah.
Because you weren't working. You were studying for your nursing exams. And pretty soon you were going to be pregnant with our first child and raising them from home. So we needed money. And I had a music performance degree, which that leads you to a 100% commission sales job. That's what that degree gets you. Okay.
Yeah.
But I remember my first day on the job at this company, I was knocking door to door to door, and we replaced roofs in this company. So if hail damage hit a neighborhood and damaged the roofs, then we would work with the insurance companies to replace the roofs. So I accepted the job, and the first day I go to work and I say, okay, where do I start door knocking? They said, well, there's one little caveat, is we haven't had any hail hit the Denver area in about 3 years. So any opportunity you have to make a sale is 3 years old. But we can tell you about some neighborhoods. Go try those. And my heart just sank. Like, what did I just sign up for? So I went to this neighborhood and I knock on the first door. And the person answers, and I give my little pitch. I'm here to look at your roof. And they looked at me with the most confused face. And they said, you know, you're 3 years late. Like, we've all had our roofs replaced. What are you doing here? And they closed the door. And I'm thinking, what am I doing here? And so I took a moment and I'm just like, what am I doing here? Right? And just a very, very subtle, quiet voice in me says, just keep knocking. Okay, so I go to the next house. I knock on the door. They open the door. I give my little pitch. And they said, what are you doing here? We had our roof replaced years ago. What year is it? Honey, when was that we had our roof replaced? That was 3 years ago. Sorry, everyone's good in this neighborhood, buddy. We wish you the best. And they shut the door. This went on and on for hours.
And days.
Yes. And after every house, God would say, this subtle little voice inside me would say, just keep knocking. And I'm trying to listen to this voice, but eventually I call my supervisor and I say, this isn't working. This neighborhood has already been covered. All the roofs are going to be replaced. I think I'm going to go home for the day. And he says, well, what are you going to do when you go home? I said, well, probably sit down and relax. And he said, well, how much money are you going to make doing that? And I got the point he was trying to make. And so I got out of my car and I just kept knocking. Well, finally, I knocked on this house, and this sweet old lady, probably 80 years old, opened the door, and I give my whole pitch, and she says the same thing, but for whatever reason this one time, I just couldn't bear the rejection any longer. And as she closed the door, my face followed the little gap as it got smaller and smaller until I just don't think she had it in her to shut it on my face. And she said, fine. You can go give me a free inspection. You can go up on my roof. So here I am, my first inspection of my life, right? I'm so excited. I get my ladder. I put it up on the roof. I get up there and I see her whole roof covered in hail damage. Bad hail damage. And I'm like, she's never going to believe this. She told me she'd already done it all. So I take pictures. I come down and I show it to her. And she goes, no. We replaced the roof. She goes, stay right here. Let me call my insurance agent. So she gets her insurance agent on the phone, and he says, ma'am, you filed a claim. We accepted the claim, and we sent you the money, but you never completed the actual roof. And those checks expire in 2 weeks. Do you have anyone who can get this roof started for you right away? And I took my little contract and I pushed it across the table, and that was the first ever deal we signed, the first money we ever made.
Wow.
As a married couple, and that's how it started. And why do I think that's an interesting picture of surrender? Because surrender in that case wasn't going home, right? Surrender was accepting the invite to just keep knocking. It was not resisting the call of the Lord to just keep knocking. Mm-hmm. Surrender was letting that word take me from house to house to house to house until I finally hit probably the only house in a 5-mile radius that God's like, nope, if he just keeps knocking, he's going to get there. And it reminded me of the verse that says, ask and it will be given to you. Knock and the door will be open to you. Seek and you shall find. I'm getting that slightly wrong. But knock and the door will be open to you. So that was one story of surrender. Later, we ended up starting our own roofing company. And I remember that one, we were also waiting on hail. And I had hired a bunch of people to work 100% commission for us.
They left their jobs to come work for
They
you.
left some great paying jobs.
Yeah.
Because they're like, 6 figures, yay!
Yeah.
They came to work, and I remember every Friday morning we would have a meeting. And we would sit around and say...
In our living room.
In our living room.
Yeah.
And we'd say, when is hail going to come? When is it going to hit? When are we going to be able to make money? And I remember all of us, it was my best friends, my brother.
Young dads, new kids, new families.
We all were feeling so scared. And I remember one day we all sat down and we had what we called our Friday morning Holy Ghost meeting. And I will never forget this one meeting. We did this for a whole year. We met like this every Friday, but there's only one meeting I remember. And in that one meeting, there was this idea that just suddenly struck all of us. And the idea was the safest place in the world to be is at the mercy of the Lord. And we felt 100% at the mercy of the Lord. Like we needed weather patterns that we couldn't control, right? Our families needed income. We did not know what to do. But what God showed us was the safest place in the world is not with a salary, not with a great insurance policy, not with a super secure job. The safest place in the whole world is to be completely at the mercy of God. So there are 2 introductions in my life to surrender through entrepreneurship, through work, through activity that really has sucked me little by little by little into having faith to like, I want to let go more, not less.
Yeah. So a long time ago, we did a story about Do Space, which is basically the story of building a business completely surrendered to Jesus. Like we feel like the idea was from Jesus. Every day Mason wakes up and he like sits and waits on the Lord, and basically you get your marching orders. And that is like a level of surrender that is so worth talking about. It's this faith level. It's this like Moses standing on the edge of the Red Sea, and it's not like in his own power. He taught everybody swimming lessons for 3 weeks prior to their departure. He stood there with no answers, no solutions, no power, and just waited. He was at the mercy of God. He couldn't do anything, and he still stood there and said, God, I'm here.
Yeah.
But that's like the faith aspect of surrender. What I really want to talk about today is the other side of that coin, which I find myself trying to tell clients about in Splankna sessions often because it is so life-changing. But you articulate it so much better, which is why I wanted to have you come on here, is like, okay, so there's this element of faith that helps us to follow Jesus, even when it doesn't make sense, even when hail hasn't come in 3 years, even when you're scared and you still show up and be like, okay, God, I'm here. That to me is the kind of Christian life that we're called to. It's the kind of Christian life that takes us past just religion and following rules and going to church and everything feels boring. Like we were truly meant to live in a different reality than before we gave our life to Christ. But there's another side of it that is getting unattached. Surrender also is synonymous with letting go. And when we are struggling with things, when we're entangled with things, it comes with stress and emotional turbulence. And you also in this journey of building this company have learned to unattach from so many things other than Christ, again, out of survival. Because if you were attached to the money, if you were attached to the pride, if you were attached to the reputation, the technology, this process of building Due Space, this company, would have torn you apart already.
Maybe a good way to say it is attachments slowly kill you.
Yeah. Totally.
And surrender brings you life. And so the beautiful thing is life, if life is being good to you, and it is, I promise, no matter what anyone is going through who's listening today, if life is being good to you, and it is constantly working to help you let go to Christ alone. And anything other than that is going to bring tension, resistance, negativity, pain, difficulty. But the beautiful thing is that you're only as far from freedom as you're willing to surrender. Any person in their life is only as far from freedom as they are willing to surrender, which means the only thing stopping you from experiencing total freedom in life are the things you're holding on to. And the things that you're holding on to may feel for a moment like they're holding you up, but ultimately they're holding you back, always. And you come to realize that in layers through life, and there become more and more expansive ways to surrender deeper and further and more completely in your life. Like, I had to surrender for believing God for providing for me. Then I had to believe in God for providing for me and a wife. That's a whole different level of surrender. And then a wife and 5 children. That's a whole different level of surrender that life is constantly inviting us into. And I think, speaking to your therapy and what you do, there's a huge difference between what I would say most people do by default and what surrender invites us into. I'd say most people by default go into coping, but surrender invites us into casting, right? The Bible says to cast all your cares, not even just your pain, even your desires, even your longings, cast them all upon the Lord. But what we often do is we cope with the things that we're wanting, and we cope with the things we're struggling with, and that creates the friction and the negativity that hurts us. And so, the beautiful thing about it is if all you do in your life is you pay attention to the tension, you'll find freedom underneath all of it.
Say that again in a different way, because I love that. Okay. What do you mean by that?
Anything you're going through in life, if you can pay attention close enough to the things that are bringing you conflict, pain, tension, underneath that, you're going to find something that you are holding on to. You're going to find something that you and only you have the power to let go of in order to be free. You're going to find out that the thing or the person, whatever it was or whoever it is, actually has no control over you. They are not above you and they're not your God, right? Your only God is Christ alone. And when in every struggle, there is something that you and only you have the power to let go of, which leads you into freedom. So paying attention to the tension, even the pain of life is being good to you. It's sending you a message of what it's trying to help you let go of next to experience that next layer of freedom.
That's so good. Yeah. So a way that I say this is like, if you have things in your life that are like, I'll be okay, I'll be happy if A, B, and C. I'll be able to keep my sanity, keep my temper, keep my joy if A, B, and C. There's a very good chance A, B, and C are things you're attached to.
That's an attachment. Yeah.
Attached to, or the things you're holding on to. So,
and here's a good way to explain. The attachment is like saying it's something you've made a deal with in order to stay good. Like if Laura is having a good day, I can have a good day. But if you're not having a good day, I can't have a good day on my own. That would be an attachment. It's a deal I've made that something else has to be in a certain way for me to be okay.
Yeah.
But I can let go and accept Laura having whatever day she wants to have. She can let me have whatever day I want to have. And we can still be completely good and free.
Okay, this is really powerful if you're a parent of kids, especially young kids. If you can learn to be unattached and your kids can melt down, they can have a temper tantrum, they can be devastated about the blue plate versus the red plate, and you can still be in charge of your own well-being, your own state of peace and joy. You are unattached from your kid being in a good mood in order for you to be able to have a good day. That is powerful. And the same thing applies to your boss and to your friend and to your parents and to your brother. Like, you are not attached to everyone else's emotional states, so that if someone else is dysregulated, upset, bitter, you can still be free. You can still be free. What about like when you're attached to ideas of someday I will be happy when I get married, when I have kids, when I graduate. If my business succeeds, then I'll be able to be okay. Then I'll be able to be happy. Mm-hmm. If I heal from this sickness, then all of those things would be things we could get attached to, right?
Yeah, totally.
So how could you tell someone like, no, you can be happy even if you never get married, because that's the desire of their heart?
Yeah. See, the beautiful thing about surrender is it makes zero sense. It makes no sense at all if God is not in the picture. Because what are you surrendering to then, right? But in all those examples you just gave, if you can get to a place where God is really my all in all, He really is my everything. If I'm married or I'm not married, I'm the same fulfilled. I'm the same connected. Whether I successfully sell and grow a company or I don't, I'm still the same with Him. He's the same with me. Something about that person becomes unstoppable and undefeatable. And what in the world would make you get to a place like that? Number one is you've tasted and seen who Jesus is. Like, if you haven't experienced Him, if you don't know what it's like to sink into the ecstasy of nothing but Christ alone and feel it through your whole body, you would think, why would I surrender? Another thing that I think is very helpful with surrender is the verse where the Bible that says, and we know that everything is working together for the good of those who love Him and are called according to His purpose. So when you make that love connection, you taste and see that God is good. And you're called according to His purpose, which is the surrender. You let go to His purpose, His just keep knocking, His flow coming from your innermost being. When you let go to that, every single thing in your life begins to work together for your good. And you look at every single thing. Whether you get a promotion at your job, you say, good, thank you. Or you get fired from your job, you say, ooh, good, thank you. Or your business grows and succeeds, or you get married, or you don't get married, or you're single longer than you thought, or you got married sooner than you wanted to. You look at it all and you say, good, thank you. That person, I don't know, there's something invincible about it. Every single thing, even the enemy brings into your life, you're like, good, thank you. I don't know if you heard the story of Martin Luther. He was in a very dark moment in his life where he had to make a big decision about what he was going to do next. And he was sleeping in bed one night, and he heard something in the room, and he turned over and he saw Satan in his room. And he looked at Satan and he said, "Oh, it's only you." And he rolled back over and went to sleep. I think when we look at God like the ultimate I am, the all in all, the is, who's working all things together for our good, and then we see Satan as just one of his pawns who's being used to work everything together for our good, whether it's in singleness or marriage or tension with kids or things going perfectly. It doesn't matter. In the life of Christ alone, which you can only enter through surrender, none of that matters anymore. You're good regardless. All the other things are of no consequence.
Yeah, to me, this is the secret of freedom.
Yeah.
This is how we live free as children of the Most High King. We are unattached to everything in this world other than him. Like, I always tell you, this isn't even real.
Yes, I love that.
This has maybe been how I've attached to this message. Like, in the past 3 years, Mason and I have put everything on the table, risked everything for this new business that we felt like God put in our path. And it's been scary and fun and faith building. And we've watched countless. We've lost track of the miracles that have happened. And I just got to a point where I was like, none of this is real anyway. It's all earthly stuff that in the realm of eternity, when I stand before my Maker, I will not remember the details of this story. I will not remember the stress of, it will be stuff that just does not matter in the eye of eternity. Money, we do need to pay our bills. We need to pay our mortgage. We need to be able to buy groceries for our kids. All of that is true. But what feels more real to me in this realm of surrender is God's provision. And his provision doesn't come in mathematical sentences that make sense all the time. We've had times where we couldn't make payroll. And we were like, okay, come Monday, this is it.
We wouldn't be able to make payroll if money didn't come by Monday.
Yeah.
And it's like Friday.
Yes. And in our world, with investors, you have to make investor introductions 3 months before the whole contract goes through. And it was like, how could we get money by Monday? We haven't even met an investor. And
this wasn't like $5,000 we needed by Monday. This is tens of thousands of dollars.
Yes. And it has happened every single time. And I'm like, oh, I get it. God doesn't operate by logic. He just operates by miracles, which don't follow the real rules of life. But when you are not surrendered, you're living by your own strength, by your own understanding. You do kind of have to follow the rules of the world, which means you will not, it's impossible to get that money by Monday. It's impossible to have that thing go through with your job. It's impossible for restoration to happen with that relationship. But when you surrender to Jesus and you start living in this upside down kingdom, all of a sudden those rules of the world don't apply to you anymore.
It's weird.
It is so weird.
Yeah, it's weird. So there's a great verse in the Bible that says, our God acts on behalf of those who wait upon him. Waiting upon God is a radical act of surrender.
Yeah.
It's saying you have the next move, not me, no matter what, no matter how close we get to the edge. I'm giving you the next move. And the funny thing is, for the people who wait upon the Lord, which is trusting and surrender and letting go and letting him have the lead, and we be the followers of Jesus and not the leaders of our own lives. The funny thing is, for the people who do that, God acts on their behalf.
Yeah.
And the people who don't do that, you can still make progress. You can still do great things in life even, but your output is always limited to your input.
Yeah.
You become the slave of your own self, of your own ability. But true freedom doesn't come from the self as the center. True freedom comes at the end of self. When you expand beyond the limits of what you are able to do.
Yeah.
Like one of the ways I think of it is like the surrendered life is a very binary thing. It's very simple. It's either yourself is at the center of your life, or you're allowing yourself to be the recipient of your life.
That's good.
Which means that something else is the source. And it initiates and you receive. You're not initiating to make it happen. It's initiating and you're receiving. And that's where surrender takes you. It takes you not just to the end of yourself, but it takes you into the realm beyond yourself, which once you taste and see it, you're like, I'd like some more of that. I would like to surrender so my life isn't limited to my own ability or my own inability. Our life is as soon as we make our own ability the input of our life, it's also our own inability, which at the same time.
Yeah, it's almost like God will allow you to live out of your own power. He'll allow you to live out of your own plan for your life if you want to. He will not force himself to be that role for you. But then you get exhausted because you are the one in charge. You are the one driving the ship. You are the one expending the energy. You are the one trying to make everything happen for you, to make happiness arrive in your life. And it's almost like he just sits there and like, hey, whenever you're ready, I am happy to take over. Whenever you're ready. And you have to get to that place of surrender. Like, I give up.
Yeah.
I'm done being the source. I want you to be the source and I need to be the receiver. And then he starts operating in ways that don't exist in the other realm.
Yes. This is the shift from the Old Testament to the New Testament. It's the shift from law into grace. It's the shift from you reap what you sow into you reap what he sows. Mm-hmm. What has he purchased for you? You can receive infinitely more through surrender than you can ever achieve through self. Mm-hmm. You can receive infinitely more through surrender than you can ever achieve through self. And I feel the invitation of the whole gospel is the invitation to cross that line, coming to the edge of self, which means the edge of your own understanding, the edge of your own control, and stepping across it into something that you don't fully understand. And you don't know how it's going to work out, but you trust. This is the letting go. Crossing that line is the moment of letting go. And many people might say they're Christians, but if they haven't crossed that line, they're not followers of Jesus.
They're still following themselves, hoping Jesus is along for the ride.
They're still
That's
living.
how I
Yes.
That's how I used to be. I'm going to follow Jesus and I'm going to impress him with how well I can do it. And I hope he's proud of it. And I hope he helps me out once in a while.
Yeah.
That's how I did it.
Yep.
And I didn't know there wasn't a different option.
Yeah. So how do people do this practically? How do you find something to let go of and then actually let go of it?
Okay. So honestly, at least right now, and this is why this is on a Splankna podcast, because so much of life struggle comes from us trying to drive the ship. And so right now, I am meeting with so many people who want to be married. So I'm just going to use that as my example because it's a perfect one. When you live in this kind of surrender, what I am learning is like the outcome is none of your business. We bring our desires to the Lord. He put those desires in our heart in the first place. He created us to enjoy those things, to crave those things. So we take that desire and we hand it back to him. And we are like, okay, God, here it is. I'm holding it out right in front of you. I'm looking at it. You're looking at it. This is my heart's desire. But if that thing happens, or if it doesn't, is none of my business. I'm just here to process this all with you. But how do I know that getting married is actually going to make my life better? Mm-hmm. I don't want to make that choice. I want you to be in charge, God. I want you to drive, you to tell me. And I trust that if I get married this year or next year or 5 years from now or never, I trust that you work everything out for my good and you're building things in me that I am going to be so grateful that I have access to down the road.
It's like believing in God is believing that his ways are higher than our ways and his thoughts are higher than our thoughts, and his plans are better than our plans. Like, that's a fundamental access to believing in God and a precursor for surrender. Like, if I don't believe he has a better plan, higher thoughts, more excellent ways, why would I trust him? But if he really is God, and he really is beyond us, infinitely more than we could ask or imagine, then suddenly surrender starts to make a little bit more logical sense. Because have you ever met someone in a marriage who's extraordinarily unhappy?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, yes. So it doesn't mean that marriage is guaranteed to equate to happiness. Milo, our fourth, said something to me the other day. He said, "Dad, it's so interesting. Whenever it's summer and hot, I wish it was winter and cold. But whenever it's winter and cold, I wish it was summer and hot."
The age-old human experience.
Yes. And I'm like, buddy, that is profound. Because all the single people are like, "I wish I was married." Then all the married people are like, "I wish I was single." And everybody, no, not me. All the other married people. All the other married people, yeah. But that means you're only living in a constant state of resistance to what is. That's the opposite of acceptance.
Yeah, talk about that, living in resistance.
Living in resistance.
I love when you talk about that. Like the struggle, you're only living in frustration when you're struggling with something.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're not accepting what is reality. You are not accepting of reality.
Yeah.
You want something else, which is not real yet. And it's okay to crave it and desire it, but you are like fixated on it. So you're going to struggle. You're going to sit in frustration.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember we were in the process of selling our last company, and we were going through some real big challenges and conflict with all the different people involved. And a friend of mine called me and he said, "Hey, I just heard God say, you need to stop fighting and start accepting." And that really hit me. I'm like, I'm fighting everything around me to try and make it play out a certain way. So think about it this way. Jesus says that narrow is the gate that leads to life. It's narrow. The reason it's narrow is that nothing fits through it besides just you. You ever heard of the monkey who tried to grab? He puts his hand in a little hole and he tries to grab a nut, and then he can't get his hand out anymore. He's stuck. He traps himself. The reason the gate is narrow that leads to life is because the only thing that fits through it is you with no other attachments. Okay, but it says wide are the gates that lead to destruction. So imagine this narrow way, and on the right is a really wide gate, and on the other side, on the left, is another really wide gate. On the right is the wide gate of making it happen, trying, effort, like forcing, that kind of energy, okay? On the other side is fighting, resisting, trying to push things away. No, I don't want that. I'd never want that to happen. So on one side, you're trying to make something come. On the other side, you're fighting something that is coming to you. But in the middle, the narrow way is acceptance. And all negativity comes from being either on the right side of acceptance, trying to make it happen, or on the left side of acceptance, which is trying to resist something that is already happening. But when you come into the middle, which is acceptance, and you start remembering, all things are working together for my good. Good. Thank you. Like Jesus really is the all in all, even in what looks like a bad situation right now. There's something good in this. God is in this moment. Oh, you know what? I think I'm holding on to something that's preventing me from going through the narrow gate. Oh, thank you for showing me that tension. So resistance adds friction to what already is from Christ. It's always adding friction, but acceptance is a frictionless state. It's a state where nothing else is added besides just surrender to Christ alone. believing he really is the all in all.
Okay, so let me give a practical example of this. And this is me because I've been a stay-at-home mom for the past 14 years. Can't believe that. Okay, super, super down-to-earth practical. If my preschooler is melting down, upset, can't even function because they're on the floor crying and screaming, my resistance in that moment, my frustration is going to be tied to the desire that I wish she wasn't doing what she was doing. I wish she would knock it off. I wish she could reason with me right now. And that gap between what is reality is she's not okay right now. She's struggling. And what I wish was true, that gap is what's going to cause me a ton of frustration.
That's a great way to say it.
If I can pull myself out of what I wish was true and just into reality, to me, that gets rid of almost all of the frustration and aggravation and struggle, because it's like, who cares what I wish was true right now? It's not true. So let's just face reality. She's struggling. I just got to show up right here. Why would I waste my energy, my time, my thoughts towards what I wish was happening right now? Because it's not going to help me in the moment, and it's certainly not going to help my preschooler if I'm just frustrated about what I wish was happening right now.
That's good. That's really, really good. So the gap between what is and what you wish it was is where the negativity gets experienced.
Yes.
Versus just accepting and facing it and coming into, you called it reality, not resisting or wishing reality was different, but coming right into the middle of reality.
Yeah.
Even if it feels painful, inconvenient, hard, that's where the acceptance is. That's the middle, narrow way of acceptance.
And that's a free person.
That's a free person, yeah.
Because the list of things that can derail you are so small then. When you can really get unattached, you can get rid of that gap of what I wish was versus what is. You're just free. Life can't punch you in the face as often as it used to be able to, because nothing lands anymore. It's like I remember you and I went out to coffee with some friends here in Omaha, and her husband was starting a new business, and they were exhausted and they were hurt by God. Like, why isn't this working out? And we were sharing our story, and they basically said, how do you handle all the stress of this kind of waiting on the Lord, depending on God? Because something good will happen and we celebrate, but then I don't want to get my hopes up too high because then something bad might happen and then we're devastated, and it's this roller coaster. And I remember my answer to her was, you got to get off the roller coaster. If your emotions, your days, your peace is tied to the good things and the bad things of life, you will ride up and down and up and down, and it will be exhausting after a while. But if you can just get off the roller coaster and stand on Christ instead, who doesn't change, everything, your hope, your freedom, your peace, your joy is in Him instead of circumstances. You are not doing the loop-de-loops, and you're not getting your hopes up, and then you're devastated that you just get off the ride.
Yeah.
That's what it feels like to me.
Yeah. It's almost like, Jesus said before Abraham was, I am. So He is. So anytime you just accept what is, you're accepting Christ, is the funny thing. So in your example with the toddler screaming and melting down, anytime you're resisting that and fighting that, no, I wish that wasn't happening, you're resisting and fighting You're resisting and fighting Christ, who is. But
How? Say that.
If Christ
is my screaming toddler.
Christ says, I am,
Okay.
right? He says He's the all in all, okay? That every single thing that we see in this world came from and for Him. It was all made through Him. So in every single thing is Christ. So I heard this Jewish scholar say that the best translation into English for the most holy name of God is simply is. Like thinking of the word is as a noun, as a person. That to me helps make so much sense of, okay, what is right now? My toddler. This is where God is. Not in the fighting it, not in the wishing it was something different, not in the resisting it, but right here in the facing it. There's actually something good. And I bet if a toddler, for example, when they had a meltdown, you connected with them like that for weeks and months and years in their life, how grounded is that person going to be compared to you always resisting them and being like, stop it, not here. How ungrounded is that kid going to be? It's like accepting what is the same as accepting Christ. And resisting what is the same as resisting Christ.
Okay, so then let's talk about what if the thing that is devastation, is awful, is rip your heart out painful. Do you just be like, yep, this is my new reality? Like, there's something to be said about accepting it and yet having hope that Christ isn't done yet, that he's writing a story. It doesn't, like, what I don't want you guys to hear us saying that accepting what is just means you kind of like become a doormat or you keel over and just lay in the devastation. It's different than that.
It is. And we're kind of talking like about some advanced things here that require a little bit of nuance. But remember, accepting what is surrender, right? That's letting go of the other things. And it's trusting beyond ourself. I can't see Christ in this yet, but I know that when I surrender, it activates. It turns on that flow from my innermost being. So is something that's always in motion. It's never just leaving you where you are. If you're in a devastating circumstance and you enter into a state of acceptance, that river of God is going to start carrying you through and out of it. And in 5 years, you might say, I would never trade that for the world, because what it created in me made me into this person that can give these things to other people who were in situations like I was. And you end up saying, it was good and I didn't even know it. It was so good and I didn't even know it. But it still starts with surrender and acceptance.
Yeah, or I would say some things are not good. I would still say some things are not good, but what the enemy intended for evil, the Lord will use for good. What the enemy tried to destroy you with, the Lord somehow knows how to grab a hold of that exact same story. And if you let him, he can turn it around for his purpose, your purpose.
Yes.
Good somehow.
He makes
and like not letting go of that, not letting go of sight of that hope.
Yes.
In the trauma, in the devastation, in the place you find yourself, the shadows.
Yeah. Like in my first story, I didn't want to spend 20 years door knocking only getting no's, but I had to accept my way through it until I got to something better. There's this is getting a little bit deeper, but I think it's really, really good. Understanding that what's good and bad is really hard for a human to make a perfect judgment on. Really, really hard. So I'll tell you like an example here. And obviously there are things that are evil. Good and evil, that's different. Evil is like almost anyone can tell when something is blatantly evil.
We're not talking evil right now.
Yeah, we're talking good and bad. So I'll tell a story that for me illustrates this really well. There was a man walking down a street when all of a sudden he dropped his wedding ring and it rolled and fell into a sewer. And all his friends said, "Oh, that's bad." So he went and got a metal detector and he went and tried to use a magnet and all these different things to pull it out. And he ended up pulling out not only his ring, but a rare historic coin that was down there as well. And all his friends said, "Oh, that's good." So he took it to see if he could get it appraised and see if was it valuable? He didn't know. It turned out it was worth an extraordinary amount of money. But it was also a key piece of evidence in a missing persons case that was still unsolved. and the coin got confiscated by the law enforcement and taken away from him. And all his friends said, "Oh, that's so bad." But then that key piece of evidence ended up being the one thing that set a wrongfully convicted man out of jail. He was sitting, his whole life was stuck in jail. He wasn't even supposed to be there, and put the right man into prison for the crime that was committed. And all his friends said, "Oh, that's good." So you see, what can be understood as good and bad is very different in the moment than it is in hindsight.
Yeah.
And how you see it looking back over the story of your whole life. You might even look at something evil and say, "I'm glad I had that experience because of what it did and where it brought me in my life." I know a lot of people who were never believers in God until they had a blatant experience face to face with a demon or something extraordinarily evil that felt like Satan himself. And in their mind, it just clicked. If Satan is this real, oh my gosh, it means God is too. So they had an experience with evil that led them to Christ.
Yeah.
So even understanding the difference between what's good and bad is hard for humans to do because we look at it in a very short window of time, which is why trusting beyond yourself that everything, no matter how I can understand it right now, everything is working together for my good for those who love him and are called according to his purpose because I've surrendered to him. Every single thing.
Yeah. Yeah. All of this just sounds like freedom to me. Everything you're describing is like the world doesn't get to decide anymore.
Yeah.
If I'm okay or not, if I'm happy or not, if I'm free or not. Like, the platform I stand on is Christ, and he never moves or changes. He doesn't go up and down. He doesn't throw me for a loop. He is always the same. And I stand there.
Yes.
And I watch the roller coaster go by. I watch life happen. I still am processing life happening, but I'm not riding it anymore.
Yes. Here's a formula for that. Okay. This is the title of someone's book. I've never read the book, so it's maybe a great book. But the title of their book is Jesus plus nothing equals everything. That's the formula for what you just described. Another thing that you said is you said, life still happens. I'm still witnessing it. I'm still observing it. But it isn't swinging me around like a tail wagging a dog, right? The Bible says that those who wait on the Lord rise like eagle's wings, something like that. So when you wait on the Lord, what it does is it helps you rise above your circumstances.
Yeah.
So when a storm comes in the world, eagles rise above the clouds. The storm is still happening. It's still there. There's still thunder and lightning and rain. But the eagle's up here instead of down here.
Yeah.
And that's what Jesus plus nothing equals everything does for you in life. It brings you out from underneath the clouds to above the clouds, where Jesus says he has placed everything under your feet.
Yeah. Okay, so I'll wrap it up with this. If you are living and you feel like you are always entangled, you are stuck and attached to so many things in the world, and you're like, okay, I hear this. I don't know how to get free. I don't know how to let that stuff not bulldoze me. I don't know how to stop striving. I would say one resource that I would give you right now, there's this book called Grace Walk. And it is not a new book. It's been around for a long time. I'll link it in the show notes. I have been recommending that to a lot of my clients lately because it is this idea of whatever you need, whatever you are struggling with, it's already been solved. It's already been given to you. God is the all in all. He is in every story. He is in everything. It's our ability to let go of our self-driving and stop seeing ourself as the performer, ourself as the achiever, and letting him be all of those things for us. That is literally the definition of his grace. That is the stuff that is life-changing information. And it switches you from exhausting to being able to just enjoy the life God is walking you through, the adventure he has you on, the things he's growing you into, a receiver of your life instead of a maker of your life. And I believe this is what Christ meant for every single believer.
Mm-hmm.
It's like when you can't live in this existence, you are tied to the laws of physics. And when you let go and surrender and start existing in an upside down kingdom that works so differently than this world, all those laws of physics get suspended and they don't apply to you anymore. So thanks for being here. Thanks for listening. I love when you guys write emails, questions, comments on these. This is a very different topic than what we typically cover, but so pertinent and important to the Splankna conversation, because after you've cleared out your traumas and you've surrendered things to the Lord in Splankna sessions, there is a new life that He is inviting you to. And it's a life that is a lot less exhausting, a lot less outcomes focused, a lot less where do you arrive, and a lot more just along the journey, letting Him drive instead of you. And it is so much more enjoyable, so much less energy, and a lot more fun to live that way.
Support American-made tariff-free clothing with American Giant. They aren't affected by tariffs because their clothing products never left the U.S. Get 20% off your first order when you use promo code STAPLE20 at American-Giant.com.